Hey guys, Will here. So there's been a massive surge in new signups in iRacing over the last couple of weeks as real life motorsport sort of transitions across to the simulator world. Obviously it's attracting a lot of attention and a lot of new faces are coming in. So if you're brand new to the sim racing scene, welcome. We're very glad to have you here. And if you're new to iRacing in particular, then you should find this video very useful. So we're going to be covering my top 10 tips for people who are brand new to iRacing to not only help save you a bit of money, but also help you maximize your enjoyment and hopefully minimize your frustration as well. So we'll jump straight in. Now these aren't in any particular order in terms of importance. I've sort of tried to just organize them so that they sort of lead and make sense into each other as we go through. So let's just jump straight in here. My first suggestion is start off with the base content while you're familiarizing yourself. Don't go all in immediately and buy all the cars and tracks that you think you might want to use. That can get extremely expensive very quickly. Obviously, cars and tracks are quite expensive to purchase in iRacing, and it's not like other sims. It's not arranged like other sims are. And it shouldn't really be used in the same way as other sims are either. So most sims, what happens is, you buy the game, you're presented with a whole bunch of tracks and cars, and you kind of chop and change and you experience different things. And, different people will sort of gravitate towards different types of cars and different types of tracks within the simulator itself. But you have access to everything, obviously, besides DLC. But iRacing is a little bit different. It's sort of organized around seasons and different classes of cars. And there's actually plenty of base content there to sort of get you familiar with the game and sort of decide whether it's something that you want to invest in further as you go along, without needing to sort of fork out and spend a fortune right from the onset. So I would definitely recommend, familiarize yourself with the title first, sort of figure out what you want to do and what you're actually planning on getting out of it before you go and just fork out on a whole bunch of content. So that's tip number one. Now that leads pretty cleanly into tip number two, which is my suggestion is try to focus on one car and one series to begin with as well. I find, for me at least, it's a lot more rewarding to become really fast and really competitive at one particular car within a particular season, rather than sort of chopping and changing all over the place all the time, driving lots of different cars. I find I tend to get really frustrated when I'm driving lots of different cars all the time and sort of having to reset my muscle memory between them. And yeah, I just find I enjoy the game a lot more when I'm focusing on one season and getting really good at that. And you would see if you went back and watched some of my previous race videos, back when I was doing the MX-5 and the Skip Barber seasons in particular, I was really getting competitive in those and really enjoying them. And more recently, I've sort of been chopping and changing and trying different things a lot more. And I've actually been finding iRacing a lot more frustrating since I started doing that. So on that point, iRacing kind of works a little bit differently to a lot of other sims in how the online participation is arranged. So you have 12-week seasons with a different track each week, and you can partake in as many races as you want during that week. And the way it works is pretty simple. If you do 4 or less races in 1 week at a particular track, then it'll take the results from your best race out of the 4. If you do 5 to 8 races, then it'll take the average of your best 2 and so forth. So if you do 9 to 12, it'll take your best 3 and so forth. So that's really good because it keeps a pretty even playing field between those who only have time to do 1 race a week, as opposed to people that are just able to go over and over and over again until they win a race. So that works really well. Now it's also split up into different splits based on the strength of field. So every driver has an I rating and a safety rating, and your I rating is what determines the strength of field. So say you signed up for a race that had 100 cars participating and each field had a maximum limit of 25 cars. So that would mean that you would have 4 splits. So each one of those splits would end up with people that had roughly around the same I rating as you have. So as you can imagine, that keeps a much more even playing field within each individual split and makes for much more competitive racing. So when you start getting up into the top splits, that's when you get the really high quality of driving. You find there's less accidents, less craziness off the start and into turn 1. And that's where I find iRacing is most rewarding. So yeah, I find that I have a lot more fun when I focus on one particular car, or maybe 2 or 3 if you've got a lot more time, but don't just be able to be changing and chopping all over the place all the time. Make sure you're focusing on one, get good at it, and you'll find that you have a lot more fun and spend a lot less money as well. And that also comes into play with how much money you'll find yourself spending on tracks as well. Obviously, if you're participating in one season, you only need to buy the tracks for that season and not every single track that's available. So you'll save yourself a lot of money there as well. So point number 3, take the time to get your force feedback and your field of view dialed in correctly. This is going to make a massive amount of difference to your overall performance. It's definitely worth taking the time to get this right. And there's a bunch of different guides that are available. I've done a couple as well as a few others that I'll link link in the description below for you as well. So point number 4, I strongly suggest that you guys use the offline practice mode while you're familiarizing yourself with a particular car or track. You don't want to be jumping into online practice sessions and ruining it for other people. Now, you might be thinking, well, safety rating and iRating aren't affected by practice sessions, so it doesn't really matter. But if you've got a full practice session, there can be a lot of cars driving around. And because with iRacing the way it is now with tire warming and all that sort of thing, what happens is, somebody might be doing hot lap after hot lap after hot lap, trying to set their muscle memory and really sort of trying to dial things in, might be sort of analyzing their telemetry data or something like that. And if you end up ruining a lap for them, that can be, 10, 15 minutes for them to go reset and then, get their tires warmed up again. And it can be really, really frustrating. And it doesn't really benefit you in any way either. There's no benefit to practicing, online versus offline when you're first getting familiar with a car and track. It's only when you're sort of wanting to compare your times with other people that it really becomes beneficial. So yeah, spend the time, get familiar offline before you jump online, and particularly while you're learning the ins and outs of the game as well, how different various settings work and stuff like that. There's really no benefit to doing that online. So stay offline in the beginning, get familiar, and then start participating online once you kind of have your head around everything. Now, one of the questions that comes up most often is how can you get out of rookie classes really quickly and efficiently? So my tip here is, again, familiarize yourself with the car and track before you start participating online. That way you're not going to be crashing off and making mistakes, or at least it'll be limited and your safety rating and iRating won't be impacted by your own mistakes so much. But, inevitably there are going to be accidents. You are going to get hit by other people and it can be extremely frustrating. So my suggestion for getting out of rookie class as fast as possible is either start races from the pit lane. And you can do this by either not clicking on the start race button at the end of the qualifying session, or jumping onto the grid and then exiting back out into the pits. And if you do that, that means that all the other cars don't have to wait the full 2 minutes for you to time out. So that can be a good way of doing it as well. So start from the pit lane and just basically try to stay out of trouble. It doesn't matter if you're not winning races, just stay completely out of everybody's way. That'll give your safety rating a massive boost. Now, it will cost you a little bit in terms of iRating, because obviously you're not going to be sort of pushing things at the front of the field and earning those points. But yeah, to begin with, to get out of the rookie classes, just focus on your safety rating. Try to get as many points as you possibly can per race in terms of your safety rating, and you'll find it'll probably take you about 4 to 6 hours to get out of rookie class. That's how long it took me. Now, you can also get out of rookie class by participating in time trials as well. That can be a little bit more boring though, so it's really up to you guys. But yeah, I would definitely suggest don't try to race other cars while you're in rookie class. Just sort of drive around the track, get familiar, try to get as few incident points as you possibly can, and you'll be out of the rookie classes in no time. So part of this as well is understanding how the mandatory participation races, or the MPR races, sort of count towards your license points as well. So you'll see on some races that you participate in, on the landing screen, you've got a little red bar that says MPR. That means that it doesn't count towards your mandatory participation for the license class that you're in. So it means by participating in that race, you can boost your safety rating and your iRating, but it's not going to boost you into the next license class. Now, if you click on your account settings, you can actually see a little window that tells you exactly what you need to participate in, and you'll find that when you're on a race that is counting towards your MPR, it'll be green, and that's how you know that the race that you're participating is going to count towards your MPR and help you boost into the next class. So generally speaking, license advancements take place at the end of each season, or if you have a safety rating of over 4 for the particular license class that you're in. So if you're over 4, it'll jump up immediately as long as you've met that MPR. If you're under 4, then it jumps up at the end of the season. So on to tip number 6, treat every single online session as if it were real life. So, in real life, obviously, if you have car damage, whether it's your fault or not, it is going to cost you money, and it's exactly the same in iRacing. So if you end up with car damage in a qualifying session, or you drive off the track or something like that, it is going to cost you in terms of your iRating and safety rating, and that can be really frustrating, not only for you, but for other drivers as well. If you're hitting other people and causing accidents, it just creates chaos for everybody, and it creates a bad time, and it's really not what iRacing is all about. Now, that also goes for after the race as well. What a lot of people don't realize is that incident points still accumulate after you've passed the finish line. So what I generally recommend is drive around the track and park up in the pits. That way the risk of somebody hitting you or doing something stupid after the race is minimized. From my understanding, the incident points are still counted right up until the last car crosses the finish line. So just keep that in mind as well. So point number 7, this is more around etiquette rather than something that's specific to iRacing itself. But that said, because of the way iRacing is structured around iRating and safety rating, it can be particularly frustrating in iRacing when people don't do this. So in the unfortunate event that you do have a spin or an accident with another car and you find yourself stranded in the middle of the circuit, please, for the love of God, just stay still while there's other cars coming past you. When there's other cars coming past you, they can see where you are, and as long as you're not moving, they've got a good chance of being able to get past you without having an accident. If you decide to try and drive across the track to get out of people's way, the chances are you're going to make things a lot worse. This happened to me in a race just the other day. I had a car that was stranded in the middle of the circuit, blocking most of the track, but I had a pathway that I could get past him. And what happened is, as soon as I was coming along, he just drove straight in front of me. I ended up T-boning him, took me out of the race, took him out of the race, and we both ended up losing a whole lot of iRating and safety rating as a result. Just stay still until the track is clear, and then you can move off and proceed back into the race. So that leads us quite cleanly into point number 8, which is it's not worth ruining your race over track position, particularly when it comes to blue flags. Now, the rules in iRacing are pretty clear. If there's a blue flag, if you're shown a blue flag, it's up to the person who's passing you to make that move cleanly. But that doesn't mean that you have to make it difficult for them. And there's so many times where, you know, I've been leading a race and I've come up behind some back markers, which are obviously a lot slower than the guys that are leading the race. And, you know, they end up trying to be a hero and they end up ruining both their race and your race. But it also counts for racing for track position as well. If you've got somebody behind you that is obviously faster than you and is obviously going to get past you at some point. Now, you know, I'm not saying don't be aggressive and don't battle with them, but you have to sort of consider whether it's worth holding them up when they're inevitably going to get past you, most likely anyway. You know, are they going to take a dive on you? Are they going to end up causing an accident, which is going to take you out of the race and affect both your iRating and your safety rating? You know, is that track position worth the risk of having an accident and ending up ruining yours and the other person's race? So for me personally, what I tend to do is if somebody behind me is obviously a lot faster than me and inevitably going to get past me, I generally make it pretty easy for them to get past, or I just let them pass. I'd rather come second or third or fifth or sixth than dead last from having an accident. So just keep that in mind. Again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be battling and you shouldn't be, you know, driving aggressively, but just, you know, again, treat it like real life. You know, it's not worth having an accident over, you know, losing one position. So just, you know, be sensible when it comes to that as well. Tip number 9, install a little software package called Crew Chief. Now, this is free software and it's absolutely amazing. It works as a spotter, and what it does is it tells you when there's another car alongside you. It tells you critical information about what's going on the track. Now, there is a spotter built into iRacing, but frankly, Crew Chief is a lot better than it is. It also has things like voice activation as well, so you can set up your pit strategies by issuing voice commands, and it's just a really awesome piece of software. Not only does it add to the immersion while driving, but it also gives you a much better awareness of what's going around you on track as well. So definitely check that out. There's a link in the description below for you. And finally, tip number 10, another software package that I would definitely recommend you installing is VRS. Now, VRS is a subscription-based service that allows you to get tips from real-life drivers. They can analyze your telemetry data, but basically what it does is it records telemetry data and allows you to then analyze that both against other drivers as well as against your own lap times. And I find it to be extremely valuable when trying to shave, you know, those last few seconds and tenths and hundredths off your lap times. You can have a look at the data compared to different laps, find out where you're consistent, where you're not consistent, find out where you're, you know, perhaps braking too early, braking too late. And although it is a subscription-based service, there is a lot of built-in free content, which is also extremely valuable. So I definitely would recommend checking that out as well. A really valuable resource, particularly in the early stages when you're familiarizing with a particular car or a track. It can really bring down the amount of time it takes you to get nice and competitive. So that's it for my top 10 tips for new iRacers. I'm sure that a lot of you guys watching this video will have some other tips as well, and I'd really appreciate your contribution in the comments below as well. Obviously, everybody's going to have different ideas of what's important, and as always with the videos on this channel, I try to keep it as much of a community effort as I possibly can. Now, if you're looking for more tips, you can check out our Discord community as well. We've got over 1,300 members there now, and a lot of us are pretty keen iRacers that have a lot of wealth of knowledge to share there as well. So definitely check that out. And if you are looking at signing up for iRacing for the first time, I do have a link in the description description below for you as well. By using that link, a small amount of iRacing credit comes back to me to help with buying cars and tracks so I can produce more content for you guys as well. So I really appreciate that. But above all, I just appreciate you guys watching and enjoying these videos. So if you have enjoyed it, make sure you leave a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell too so you don't miss future videos. We are working on our beginner's guide to sim racing in a more general sense at the moment as well. And the next video in that series is going to be looking at wheelbases and wheels more specifically. So that is definitely something to stick around for. But yeah, guys, that's it for today. So thank you very much for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye.